Hello, friends. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is Dolores Williams of PW's Stand Up. If we do not stand up for what we believe, who will? Today, I want to thank my sponsor, Ms. Kim Yater of Peak Performance Coaching. Kim is a wonderful friend. I just want to say that in here. Now, if you're feeling stuck in any part of your life and you just can't move forward on a personal or professional level, then you need to give a call to my coach, Kim Yater. You can contact her at Calendly, calendly.com/Kim Yater. It's okay to be stuck, but it's not okay to stay stuck. Dear friends, I want to introduce you to my guest today. And my guest today is Mr. Joseph Luciano. Make sure I'm saying that right, Joe. And
Absolutely.
Joseph, all right. Joseph, I just met him. I saw him actually about a few weeks ago, and then I met him personally last weekend. And what a blessing and you're going to enjoy this conversation today. But Joseph, let me tell you a little bit about this young man. He grew up in Chico, California. He studied philosophy and business at USD. And he established a successful restaurant and got involved in other businesses, okay? Now, Joseph is married to his wife, Jessica, who homeschools their children. And he established I don't know, you have to tell me the name of your restaurant, but he had a successful restaurant here for 10 years and got hit by COVID. So he's going to tell us about that. And also invested in local businesses. Now, Joseph is running for governor of California. And I just want to applaud him for standing up for the children of this state and this country, because we need people who will take a stand for our children. Now, Joseph, how are you doing today?
I'm extraordinary. Thank you very much, Dolores. Thank you for having me.
Yes, amen. Well, I'm glad you're here. Now, I want to thank you for running for governor and taking a stand for this state and the citizens of this state, because, it takes a lot of courage to step up and that's a big step to take. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much. It's an honor, and it's been a pleasure so far giving a voice to people who feel like they can't stand up right now.
Oh, yeah. And those voices have become more silenced. But
yeah.
And I want to thank your wife, too, for homeschooling your children, because that is a lot of work. Thank Jessica for what she's
every day. Absolutely. Yeah. We're blessed to have her, and our children are continuing to progress every day. So it's just, through this pandemic, it's an absolute blessing to have that choice to pull them out of an environment that we felt like was toxic, and be blessed enough to provide for our children ourselves, and now give back and stand up for others.
Amen. Amen. Now, tell me about the restaurant you had. What kind of a restaurant was it? Tell us.
The name was Crush. Okay. My successful restaurant was Crush. I established it in 2010. It was Italian cuisine. It was an urban coastal feel. It was right on the beach, right across from the Del Mar racetrack.
Oh, okay.
It was technically in Solana Beach because it was just kitty corner there to the Del Mar racetrack. Mm-hmm. But it was on the beach side. It was a beautiful restaurant. It was where the Pacific Coast Grill used to be, but they moved up to 101 there. Okay. And it's Pacific Coast Grill owners. They also own Belly Up, and they're very prominent businessmen down here, restaurateurs and whatnot in San Diego. It was a blessing to have. By the time COVID rolled around, I had hired out. My partners were doing most of the managing for the restaurant by that time, because I accepted a position in 2019 to put my education to use at One American News Network. So by the time COVID rolled around, I was getting the orders while I was there at One American News Network to report on COVID, and I was doing the investigating into the science. And meanwhile, I was also having to worry about what was going on with my restaurant, my employees losing their income, etc. And in the end, it really came down to the clientele was just too scared to continue to patron the restaurant. And if I wasn't, I wasn't willing to take handouts from the government to just make the problem worse. So it's, that's why, unfortunately, we did shut down in 2020. And, that's when I really decided to stand up for the many people at that point, whether they were Republican or Democrat. There were many industries that were affected, many lives that were affected by a decision that I felt never should have been made. So it was a no-brainer at that time for me to stand up and take my fight to the Capitol.
Yeah, well, that's great. Unfortunately, we have people that kind of want to keep us locked down and want to
Yeah.
keep the pandemic going. A lot of people took advantage of it and benefited from it,
Yes.
which is sad. It's sad to say, but it's true. Now, how did you like that experience with One America News, working with the Ledger?
It was very enlightening. And yeah, while I was at the Daily Ledger, Graham Ledger was the host there. And that was really a blessing as well. He was an Emmy Award winner and a professional from an era that is fading away, unfortunately. He came from a time where you do it yourself, you put the work in, and he passed that on to the rest of his crew as well. I appreciated that, his slogan was, the PC police aren't getting in, right? We're locking the doors. And he stood true to that till the end. He said what he had to say. And when the COVID pandemic hit, the plandemic hit, he actually was brave enough to stand up and say that it was a scheme against, Donald Trump and the economy and our employment numbers that were through the roof, at that time, record for the United States of America, as far as females, African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, etc. It was just, I felt like instead of 15 days to flatten the curve, the COVID curve, it was 15 days to flatten the employment curve. And that's exactly what ended up happening. So it was very enlightening at One American News Network. On top of all that, on top of all the good experiences, it became glaringly obvious that we have a serious fake news problem in the United States of America. I had always, I said I put my education to use when I took this position at One American News Network, because I had always avoided working at Fox or CNN, because while I was going through college, I could see that they were, propaganda machines. More than anything else, they were distractions. They weren't providing all of the news. They were taking our perspective away from what was really important, what we should all talk about, to gain control, we the people, right? And keep it from a growing government. I was in college 2003 through 2007, so that was an enlightening time there as well. But yeah, I had always stayed away from CNN and Fox and the major news networks, and I decided to stay with business and we the people, and stay in the California culture. And so I took that position at One American News Network because I felt like they were doing something different. They had grabbed my interest. They had grabbed my professional, heart, and I was excited to go to work there. And it was really unfortunate because even in the first couple weeks of training, I was told that there were certain things that I couldn't report on because owners own stock in certain businesses. And I began to see right away that everything I had always suspected, it wasn't only true at the big levels, it was now permeating throughout, every level of the media. And there's so much news that happens in a single day that we can't even really relay the whole picture to everybody. It's an impossible task to even really take on. So what a lot of these networks end up doing is just reporting on what is entertaining, omitting certain facts in order to keep stories entertaining, whatever they need to do to keep ratings going up. So it was unfortunate, as many good experiences as I had there. Again, I came to find that if I want to be active, I'm not going to be able to do it from a media position at this point in time.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're absolutely right. And the subversion of information is horrible right now. And matter of fact, I just heard, this is public, Jen Psaki, who works for Joe Biden, said that he is now monitoring what's the truth in the news and working with Facebook and these groups to determine, and even monitoring what's said on our text messages on our phones.
Yeah.
And they're sending people around to homes to try to convince people to to get the vaccine. But yeah,
Yeah.
but
It's
information
dystopian
and sharing,
nightmare.
yeah, sharing of information and the truth is being prevented. And when the government gets involved with trying to determine what truth is, that's not good. Because who are they to determine what that's their truth? They make up what they think is true, and which we may think is a lie. But we, and who knows, just for saying that, this podcast could possibly get kicked off and not even be allowed to even air, just for
Yeah.
saying these kind of things. But we are Americans, and regardless of the color of our skin, and we won't talk about all that CRT stuff, but
Yeah.
but that's a big issue right now. And
Yeah.
and I'm very, very much concerned should be for the American citizens if they knew the truth. But unfortunately, too many don't know the truth. That's why I'm glad you're standing up, and
Thank you.
also standing up for our children, because someone has to stand up for our children, and they're under attack from all sides, from the womb to the doom. They're
Yep.
under attack.
Yeah.
But anyway, but now tell me this: why do you think that Governor Newsom is being recalled? Why do you think he's being recalled?
Well, I think it comes down to one thing ultimately, and it comes down to really what you were just talking about. Who are they to decide what is true? He put himself above we, the people of California, and he proved that he was going to do that from the get-go. When he was elected in 2018, one of his first moves was to outlaw the death penalty. I'm not sure if you remember that or not. A lot of people don't at this point because he's done so much. But that was one of his very first moves, to outlaw the death penalty. Now that sounds like a generally nice thing to do. Maybe he's got a good heart, right? But we should know the reality behind that. In 2016, especially, this is my biggest issue with it. In 2016, we, the people of California, voted on whether or not we wanted to uphold the death penalty. And we voted that we do want to uphold it. So in 2016, we, the people, said, yes, we want to uphold it. And in 2018, Gavin Newsom was elected and he said, nope, we're not going to uphold it. His voice over we, the people. And I was shouting from the rooftops, shouting from the mountaintops right then and there, because I could see that that was his plan. Yeah. Just to get in office and do what he felt like he wanted to do. And take it a step further, it's not even really just what he feels like he wants to do. I think what he's doing is taking tactical steps to collapse the state of California. Yeah. Because when you look at something like taking away the death penalty, for example, it empowers murderers. Anybody who ever thinks about murder in their life, they now, in the state of California, they don't have the deterrent of facing death themselves for that crime. It's not a compassionate thing. It empowers somebody who has evil in their heart. It puts good, law-abiding citizens at risk. So I don't see why something like that should be done at all if you have the best interests of Californians in mind. Now you take it a step further, and it's one thing after the other. We, the people of California, I think we resoundingly appreciated, for example, the camps where prisoners were helping to fight fires. Yes. And he shut those down. He let prisoners out who we, the people of California, put in prison, who we wanted to be locked up and not a part of our society, and let them out in numbers that are hard to even fathom. Yeah. I mean, he let entire city populations out into our streets. And we're starting to see the effects of all of that. And then take it a step further, when the pandemic, was starting to be reported on, he was echoing the global governments that we, the people of California, frankly, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I think if you were an American, if you considered yourself an American, in a year like 2014, you were never just going to listen to the CDC guideline for wearing masks and suddenly shut down schools and not allow children to come back unless they're wearing masks. I mean, like that was something that we never would have considered. And then all of a sudden, the propaganda machine rolled in, and it's you had a governor who was backing up the far left and things that we never would have considered. So ultimately he put his voice above we the people.
Yeah, he did. Now tell me this, Joseph, how can you fix California? What do you think you can do? You're running for governor. Now you think you can, as you're running because you think you can fix things. Now how would you fix things as governor?
Well, here's how I fix things as governor. I like to go back to a little Ronald Reagan quote in a moment like this. And he said, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that most Californians do. So I'm betting on that. I'm not from the government, and I'm here to empower you to help yourself, because it's not me. It's not one person who's going to fix all this. I've got some ideas about how a governor should act and what a governor should do in the public spotlight right now. And that is, get the government out of our way. Get the government out of our cookie jars. Let we, the people of our communities, do what we do, because we made this state great. The 5th largest GDP in the world. That's us, not the government, not Gavin Newsom, and it's not going to be me as governor. It's going to be you. It's going to be we, the people. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trumpet that up and down, we, the people, not the government. And I believe that is going to reignite the California spirit and fix things.
Now that's great. Let me ask you this. What do you think the largest challenge or the biggest challenge for the next governor will face? What will they face? What's going to happen? Because there will be a challenge, especially a short time of being in office.
It depends. Yeah, absolutely. No, you bring up a great point. Whoever does take office right now, they're going to have less than a year in office to deliver what they're promising. That's why I keep my platform short. And I try to say that more than anything else, I'm here to make a stand for the American people, and I'm here to give you your voice back. I'm here to empower you again. I'm sorry, I had one more thing in mind. What was the question again?
What is the largest challenge facing the next governor?
So it depends.
If he be replaced, what will their biggest challenge be?
Yeah, well, whoever that person is, it depends on what their actual goal is. Again, I think if it's somebody who's working with the Nancy Pelosi clan and is just continuing to try to make the deep state agenda roll forward, their biggest challenge is going to be trying to make we the people believe that they're not a deep state agent, because I think we are very awake right now, not woke, but I think our eyes are wide open. Exactly. Yes. And if somebody like me happens to take office and your goal is to empower we the people, and it is to get the snakes out of our capital and out of our cookie jars, I think that the biggest challenge is pretty obvious. You're dealing with some of the biggest criminals in the world, and they don't play fair.
Yeah.
So as I try to work with we the people, I'm going to have to overcome the dirty fake news media and the many things that they can do to not only keep my voice stifled and keep my voice from reaching we the people, but to frame words and frame messages and try to, essentially what they do is they get somebody on camera and they put them through the media machine, and regardless of what they say, they still make it seem like they're pushing their agenda forward. The narrative continues on. So, it's going to be a challenge to overcome the criminals who are in power right now.
Yeah. Now, one big problem I know that you're going to have is this state has a super majority of Democrats. And for a Republican governor to come in and to be able to get things done with a super majority of Democrats running the state, that will be a challenge, because their ideology is totally off the stratosphere. A lot of them, I'm not saying all, but so many of them is out of this world thinking that people wouldn't even believe the stuff that comes out of Sacramento.
Yeah.
So that would be a challenge for for a new governor coming in. So how you deal with working with these people who are not
Yeah.
going to be wanting to work with you at all?
Well, that will be the challenge. But frankly, I'm going to sidestep them, and I'm going to try to work with we the people. As you just said, there's so many things that are coming out of the Capitol. I believe it's the leaders' mouths that most of their constituency right now can't even believe it. But and nobody's really behind it. I think that's why we see things like voter fraud being such a prominent topic among us right now, because we know it's not really a voting base that's making our society act the way that it's acting right now. You know, it's an authoritarian push. You know, it's an order from the top, and that's just how everybody's falling in line with that for some reason.
Yeah,
So
well,
I think that Republicans in general, whether it's me who takes office or another Republican, I think that their best way to reach we the people, their best platform point as a Republican to try to speak to the constituency right now is that we are for small government. And I think that there was a point in time where being a liberal in the United States of America meant that you also weren't for a large government controlling every movement of your life. And I think that even they are starting to freak out right now. If you think about people like the hippies in the 60s, you know, not necessarily my demographic, but at the same time, I think that they believed in a little bit more freedom than what they're being awarded right now from our government, right? So I think any Republican who takes the gubernatorial position right now, that's their best talking point is we're for small government and we are here for we the people. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat right now. We want to empower you to be strong in your life, to provide for yourself. We need to unite over independence.
Yeah, well, you know, that message has to get out to the people of California because first of all, they have to know the truth. And people have to really know what the truth is. And unfortunately, it's easy to be deceived. And I see a lot of deception happening, you know, in our government. When you talked about election fraud, my goodness, didn't even have that down to talk about the I will say the people from Texas, which is my state that I was born in, those Congress people who fled the state because they didn't want to deal with election fraud and other things that will help the people of Texas. Now they got on private jets with their Miller Lite beer, and they flew off on private jets and private buses, and they got flown to the nation's capital, and they're running around complaining about election fraud. I said, well, those people are running away from doing their job. Their job is not to run away, but to stand there in the legislature, vote up or down. If you don't like people showing an ID to vote, and basically that's what it comes down to. The Texas legislature are looking for ways to keep people from cheating. Show an ID when you show up to vote. We show ID for everything we do. There's not one thing we do that, and they try to, and I'm sorry, a little pissed off when they try to make Black folks think like we're too stupid to go get an ID. That kind of just doesn't sit well with me. And so I'm a little tired of them thinking we're too dumb to go out and get an ID when we have ID just like everybody else. And I just don't like being put down as a Black person and thinking that, oh yeah, well they don't know, and Kamala, oh, they don't know how to go down to the copy place and get a copy of, this was a place, the Kinko's closed up 12 years ago. She said they don't, in a small town, they don't know how to go and get a copy of their ID. And I said, wait a minute, people have IDs. So stop belittling the American people.
Yeah, honestly. You have to have an ID to walk around. I saw a package that was made by CNN of all people. It was by a reporter who got kicked off of CNN. I think it was back in 2016, and he was patrolling through Harlem, and he was asking everybody in Harlem, "Do you have an ID?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course I have an ID," you know. And He's like, is this a weird question to even ask? You know, they're like, yeah, you
Yeah.
have to have an ID to walk around in New York, you know, like this is crazy. And it's just like, nobody, if you actually believe in equality, if you actually believe that skin color doesn't matter, then why do you think that one person with a skin color, with a certain skin color, can do something that another person with a different skin color can't do? You got to step up and walk the walk.
That's right. Now, I have one other concern, Joe. I have many concerns, but I'm concerned about some California citizens just announced, I guess, parents who have children like up to 6 years old going to get government check for the children. People are getting checks for unemployment. Our people are being paid money to stay home and not go to work, while millions of jobs are going unfilled. And a lot of businesses will, if they haven't crumbled, a lot more businesses, small businesses in particular, are going to go under because they can't find people to come into work. Now, are you concerned that the money that people are getting from the government, will they look at that as a reason to keep Gavin Newsom in office when that money that's coming for COVID money or whatever it's for, that money is not his money, and it's not money that the California, they're taking money from all the states that pay their bills and redistributing wealth around to all these other states. And not, don't get me started on the trillions of dollars that are being spent, which are going to destroy this country and the economy. But how do you feel about people just getting money from the government? Will they think, oh, well, Gavin is taking care of us, he's paying our rent, and he's doing all these things for us, and so we're going to vote for him? Do they really think that if Gavin Newsom gets reelected, I think if he doesn't get recalled, that he will be a tyrant? That's just my opinion. Just like he came after people, he wanted the names of people who would dare to sign a petition to recall him. He wanted to know a list of who those people were. So I'm just concerned of people getting paid rent, you getting money from the government. Is that going to influence you to think that that gravy train is going to keep running, and that's a good person, that they're out of the goodness of their hearts sending you a check, that they're not buying your vote?
I am concerned. I'm genuinely concerned. I am not nearly as, I'm more concerned than I was, 5 to 10 years ago. I never thought that something like this would have been possible. When Donald Trump was taking office, he was saying, we will never be a socialist country. The United States of America will never be a socialist country.
Yeah.
And I believed it. I believed it when he said that. With the cheers that met that statement, I believed that we have enough people in the United States of America to make sure that we never see socialism. But right here, in at least California, in 2021, I can confirm that we are experiencing socialism.
Yes.
So we have an ideological election coming up right now, and we are going to see how many people in California have actually been convinced to go in for socialism consciously, because this is it. Do you want to, are you satisfied with waking up every day and having no responsibility and getting your money from the government?
Yeah.
I think that the propaganda machine has made everybody who is in favor of socialism right now believe that that is socialism. They'd have to wake up every day with no responsibility, and they'll get a check from the government forever. But I mean, even Bernie Sanders said back in his younger days, if we go to universal health care, even just universal health care would bankrupt the nation. So we have to realize what this leads to. That's why socialism never works, because it's people who are trying to implement it, they're not actually trying to implement anything that resembles making sure that everybody's taken care of. They're trying to create an elite class and a street class. Yeah. So you have to transfer all the wealth from the middle class to the upper class, and then everybody else is crushed. And that's what we're experiencing right now, right in front of our faces. They're taking money, it's taken from the poor and given to the rich. And we're just watching it happen. And I am very concerned. I am very concerned because the propaganda machine has a grip on people's minds and their perspectives. And when they walk out into the street, they can't even have a conversation with somebody like me who could enlighten them to the fact that this is going on, because the propaganda machine has put triggers in their mind. If I, with red flags, if I say anything like independence, or I'm a nationalist, or I'm a patriot, it's like automatically, any of these talking points that are supposed to be pro-American, it's like suddenly I'm the devil in their mind.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the middle class is definitely being destroyed. And one day those people will be totally dependent on the government, and the government won't be able to take care of them. And real quickly, I do want to bring up what's happening in Cuba in case we don't get to that. That should be a concern for every person in who loves freedom. Every American who loves freedom should be concerned about the people of Cuba. I was very concerned, but I was happy to see the people of Cuba tired of living under a dictatorship. They are tired of being beaten down, not able to do anything. They've lost their freedom, and the American people need to wake up, and those very things that are happening in Cuba are happening right here in America. I say that all the time on DW's View. Some people may not agree with me, but I know it's the truth. People in the United States are being conditioned to accept living under a dictatorship, communism, socialism, Marxism, which has killed millions of people. Look at the defunding. We're tearing down our statues. We're erasing our history. That's what they did when the Marxists and the communists, that's the first thing they did. They destroyed the history. And our history has been wiped away and destroyed. So people have to wake up and know what the truth is. And defunding of the police. Now, tell me, what would you do to prevent defunding of the police?
Well, it's difficult to prevent. I like how you present that question. Thank you. It is difficult to prevent. For example, in San Diego right now, in 2020, the K9 unit had $0 given to their department. $0. It's difficult to prevent because it's difficult to get the people to organize right now. Because as I said, what I saw when I was at One American News Network, it's so tough to report everything that's going on. We think that these people in our government right now are just dumb and incompetent and they're not doing anything, but they're actually working overtime. Working overtime. And they're hitting us with wave after wave after wave on a daily basis, to where it takes even somebody like me a few weeks to realize everything that just happened on that day a few weeks ago. So they hit us with this defund police movement, for example. And while we're dealing with, whether or not we want to, generally defund the police, they're over here literally, presenting plans and making moves to where they are defunding the police right in front of our face. We're not even putting up a fight where we think we are. So it is a difficult thing to prevent. But I think as a governor, more than anything else, I would want to use the platform to grab a hold of the narrative and change public opinion, where right now it's police are being attacked. I would want to stand up for police and talk about why it's important to have police, how they are actually standing between the Gestapo and the United States of America, and we need to go. It's just, I think defund the police is just another arm of this socialist takeover, because again, another part of the socialist takeover is to get rid of actual, community policing and implement police from the state. So I think right now, if they collapse our police departments, then we're going to have to go with the federal.
That's right. Government takeover, police. Yeah, I've been saying that. And that's a concern, not just for me, but for other people. Now let's talk about the forest fires. And we won't spend a lot of time on that, but we know that that's a problem, not just in California, but in other states.
Yeah.
Now there's something California can do about these forest fires. I want to get your opinion about that.
Yes. First and foremost, I'm not going to spend any time or money wasting the conversation or the actions on climate change. I don't believe it has anything to do with that. I think I already touched on that. I like the prisoner camps.
Yes.
Helping out with forest fires. I would reopen those. I believe Newsom has closed 7 so far. I would reopen those immediately, and I would try to make even more. And I would focus our efforts on park and land management. We have experts at this point. You know, they have masters and doctorates in how to care for our land, and they know how to prevent these things. And they're not being given the funding and the ability to do their professional diligence. So, you know, I think that that's where the crime is really being committed in that area. And again, I would get the government out of their way.
Get out of the way and let the people, and use the goats and whatever you use, keep those forests cleared out, and you won't have these infernos. And I know when I grew up in Texas, my uncles and my family did logging. They call it pulpwood. They'd have these trucks. They'd go out into the woods. They'd cut these trucks down. Trees down. These trees, they would cut them, sell them, and that is, the state of California was prevented from doing that, and that's why we have these infernos and these big fires. And so, but anyway,
and it's crazy. I'm from Northern California myself. My dad was actually the head football coach at Paradise High School, and you remember Paradise High School. The city of Paradise was burned.
Oh yeah, it burned down. Yeah.
So this is it's very personal to me, what we're talking about right now, and I know how important logging is, and it was crazy to me to watch the supposed environmentalists start to creep into the public sphere and talk about how horrible logging is. And loggers actually take care of the forest. They actually make sure the trees are well planted and planted in the proper place, etc. So to me, it was crazy from the get-go, but here we are.
Yep. Now let me ask you this, Joseph. Now we're letting people out of jail who have committed serious crimes, and we've implemented a no bail program. How in the world can we think we can make it as a society when we let criminals out of jail? Now, I'm not talking about low people who don't deserve to be in jail. There are some people who shouldn't be in jail. Maybe they got a bad rap, but I'm talking about people who are a threat, have committed crimes. They let them out of jail, and then they go out and recommit and hurt and kill people. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, again, I don't think that the people who are implementing these actions do think that we can make it as a society by doing these things. And I do think that they are trying to collapse us. I think that we all get that thought sometimes, but we need to see at this point where there's so much evidence. It's been going on for, at least since 2001 at this point, I can confirm. But probably someone like yourself can confirm it's been going on for much longer. Like Fidel Castro, for example, there's a video going around about him now, about how he was talking about he was against communism and against Marxism and he's for democracy. And you got to understand, that's how the enemy talks. So at this point, we can see them pretty clearly right in front of our face. We should be able to see that whenever they're doing something like letting people out of prison who we the people do not want in our streets, and we know will recommit a heinous crime. I think that we need to see it for what it is. That is an anti-American. That is somebody who's beholden to the CCP. That is somebody who is beholden to foreign interest. And
that's unfortunate for not just in California, but all over the country, where people and we have people coming in illegally across the border who I heard were at a town hall meeting up in the LA area with a gun, one of the cartels. And these people, they're very dangerous. What's happening in America right now? We are letting in people who anybody can come across that border. But the Biden administration came out and told the people who were trying to flee, who might possibly flee Cuba on a raft, don't come to America because we will not let you come in. These are people fleeing persecution, being murdered, and told that they can't come into the United States. If they make it here, we're not going to let them in. I guess the Coast Guard has orders to don't let them come into America, but yet our borders, our southern borders, wide open to anybody who wants to come in. As a matter of fact, people that President Trump deported, went looking for those people to bring them in. 1 month it was like 180 some thousand, 170. I mean, over 1 million people probably have crawled, not talking about the people who have come into America that didn't even get caught. But
Yeah.
yet we have people who love this country so much, like Malcolm, who I interviewed last week, still legally gonna fill out his paperwork the proper way to come in here the right way.
Wonderful.
And
I'm glad to hear that. And that's, as a governor, I would have to work with the federal government on immigration. It's an unfortunate thing. The state of California can't really do anything to deal with its what I call immigration problem, because I do think that we have a serious immigration problem here. I do think that we have too much free flow over our border. People who we know are dangerous are able to come here with whatever weaponry they can get their hands on.
But Joseph, this is a deliberate problem that happened when Joe Biden came in. President Trump had agreements with Mexico, had that problem under control. People had to wait in Mexico before, and to make sure that they were coming here the right way, that they had a legitimate reason for coming in. The Biden administration deliberately opened up the floodgates, stopped building. The first thing they did, they stopped building that wall. They killed our energy. Now we're buying energy from overseas. Anything with gas or petroleum, they're destroying that. And they think we can make it off of electric.
And it's even worse than all of this. I know a border patrol agent. He's talked about how they pick up kids every day that are
sex trafficking,
and they bring them to hospitals, and no paperwork is done whatsoever. And they have no idea what happens to the children afterwards, but this is protocol. This is their orders. So this is what they have to do right now. They're just bringing kids with no paperwork to the hospital, and who knows what happens to them after that, or whether or not they're just released into society, etc. I tend to think it's probably something more heinous than that. But
the sex trafficking it's been noted that children are being used, matter of fact, being raped on their way here to the United States. They are being taken advantage of, and that's unfortunate for these children who are being used and abused. But there has to be order in anything, and you can't just open the country up and say, I mean, it just kind of tired you. Every day you're dealing with something different and a different attack on our country.
Well, again, it's anti-American. I remember when I was in junior high, they started talking about how the United States of America doesn't have a culture, so we need to start taking on all the global cultures and celebrating our diversity. Of course, I have no problem with diversity, but again, this is that war of words, right? It sounds nice, but it's actually bringing in global societies. It's canceling out the United States of America. We do have a culture here, and it's right there in the flag. Everybody is included here in our version of independence.
Well, you know what? You bring up the flag, and did you see the Olympic Committee wants to change our flag and make up a different flag for us? I said, get out of here.
Can we just send somebody that actually represents the United States of America? Can we fire our Olympic Committee or let them do whatever they're going to do? And can we put together somebody that actually represents the United States?
That actually loves the country. That actually loves America and appreciates this country. Anyway, now I'm going to ask you this. What would you do to help protect our students of all ages who are forced to participate? And our children have been manipulated so much in school, they don't even know that they are participating in CRT, putting masks on our children. And studies have been done about masks on children, all the viruses, all the disease, all the stuff that they found in these masks are harming our children. But they insist that our children go back to school, have on masks. They're lying to our children about the education. They bring in the 1619 versus 1776, which is when the country started. And we need to give our students alternatives to public school and make sure those organizations are operating as they should. I mean, I know that's a lot, but our kids are really, really under attack, Joseph. And I don't know if you saw that gay chorus of men from San Francisco. They were singing a song. This is for my audience and for those who didn't see you. I'm sure you can look it up. They were singing a song, a whole big crew of them. They had like pictures all over a screen that we are coming for your children. We're coming for your children. And our government is coming for our children. And
yeah,
matter of fact, they
quote,
just passed a
unquote,
bill.
we will convert your children is what they said.
Yes.
We will convert your children.
Yeah, they just passed a bill in Sacramento from the cradle to the grave. They want control. From the time you're born to the time that you die, they want control of
and it's control freaks. That's the thing.
Yeah,
you know,
this is nothing but
people who don't realize God is in control here.
That's right.
Just,
He's in control. He created us all in his image and in his likeness. And not one person alive can change any of that.
And there's too many people who have a problem with that statement that you just made. In my opinion, they want to have control of what everybody is doing.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the military. Look at the attack on the military.
Law.
I don't mean to talk over you, but our military, Joseph, we love our military so much. I'm concerned about what the people running the military. They're getting not just the military, but every part of this American society is being forced. Businesses in their business rooms and plans that they're making, I'm sure school district, everybody is being required to teach and to force CRT on the whole culture. And all that's doing is turning us into a Marxist communist country. Yep. That's just the truth.
It's the Hitler Youth. It's the Hitler Youth. You know, going back to that, the socialism takeover. They're and erasing history. They're making our kids think that we are stupid. They're making our kids think that, you know, we have been doing things wrong our entire life. They're making our kids think that we are bigoted in some way, so that they turn against us in a very violent manner. You know, they gain that disrespect for us.
Yeah,
and you bring up the military. When I played football, we used to have drill sergeants come in, you know, during preseason, and you know, for conditioning days and stuff. And that was, I can't speak for everybody on the team, but I know that we all kind of appreciated that when we had a day like that, because it really did bring us together, and it really did teach us something about the importance of team, right? But that it was so important to have somebody that you knew had your best interest in mind, get in your face and turn the fight on. Because when you go up on the football field, that other team, they're going to do whatever they can do to wreck you, right? So it's actually a benefit to you to have that fight turned on in you in that situation. So if you have soldiers who are going to war, that's magnified exponentially, because war is a lot different than playing football, right? You're talking about actually playing to the death, right? So it's so important to have somebody that you know has your best interest in mind in that situation, preparing you for that situation, to survive that situation, to do the best that you can do in that situation. And right now, again, the government is tying the hands of we the people.
That's right. That's right. Instead of being out doing war games, they're doing mind games with the military on the CRT. Now, we know that the teachers unions run everything. All of education is run by the teachers unions, and they have so much power over everything as far as education and other things. They venture out into other areas. Now, I'm just curious, why are Democrats quiet on the subject of Cuba? Is it because that's what they're doing to America?
Yeah, I think that's a great assessment. As far as Democrat leaders, I think that's why Democrat leaders are silent on the subject. Also, there's a huge flip in the Democrat stance on immigration, and it's gone back and forth from Obama's first term, right? He was called the deporter in chief because he had a very firm stance on immigration, right? He was one of the biggest deporters in American history, but that was quickly turned into, oh, Donald Trump is evil for wanting to be firm on immigration. And now we have these two examples already, because you remember it wasn't long ago, I think it was just last month, Kamala gave that speech, "Don't come here," right? You remember that? Don't come here.
The phony speech.
Yeah, exactly. And now we have Cuba, they're silent on. So I think that this is part of how they control their constituents, is they know what's going on. They know that if they say certain things on screen, it can be framed in a certain way. And they just don't care that some people see through their agenda, because they're only solely focused on that 20 to 30% of the population that they can sell their agenda to. And it's working. We're seeing the socialism take over America because it's working. It doesn't matter that people like you and I are seeing through it as of right now, because it's working. Their plan is working. So they're going to keep doing it. Don't fix it if it isn't broken. So they're continuing to just focus on that 20 to 30% of the population that they have now, having the conversation about whether or not we should be having kids with masks go back to school with masks, right? We need to have the vaccine conversation, but they're manipulating it into a mask conversation. So then by the time school comes around, it's oh, you don't want masks, then you can give your kid the vaccine. This is how they win.
Yeah, and we know we have to protect our babies.
Yeah,
I call them ours because we care about them. We love our children. We just love America. Joseph, we just love this country. We love California. We love our states. We just love what God created when he created the United States. That's what we love. Our country.
And it comes down to life even right now. It's such a global thing.
Don't get me started on that.
You look at the United States of America, we've saved the world a couple times. I'll stand by that statement. We've saved the world a couple times, more than a couple times. And right now, what's happening in America, it's already happened in most places worldwide. That socialist takeover, it's already well rooted in most of the world right now. And we're just so focused on what's going on here that we don't even realize that it's not only time to wake up and grab control of our own lives. It's time to save the world again right now.
Oh, yeah. I was looking, Joseph, at the people there. I know they're ending our tour in Afghanistan. Now, the Taliban is already taken over. They're already murdering the soldiers who work with the United States. Those people are being killed even now as we speak. They're being murdered for daring to support, the United States when we were there. 20 years we spent there. And unfortunately, those people are still not ready to take over and run their own country. And the women, I feel for the women and the girls as well, because they'll be put back in burqas. They won't be given a chance to get an education. That's why, Joseph, people have better appreciate American. I don't care if you Democrat, Republican. I don't care. You make up your own party if you want to. Stand up and start fighting for this country, because we're talking about survival of the United States. It's very serious right now.
Yep. Yeah,
it's really serious. It's not a joke. It's really very serious what's happening to our country. And I'm not saying that God's not in control. He's not allowed. Yeah, he allows things to happen, but he also gives us a mind to stand up for what's right as well. And the American people, it's time for, need to stand up and realize and not be deceived by all the propaganda that's coming through TV and all conservatives who are being blocked. The messages of conservatives are being blocked. If we come out with a message that they don't agree with, then they determine what the truth is, and don't let that message get out. And that's happening to so many conservatives. I'm not even going to try to name any because I don't want to add any further hurt to them. But yeah, it's pretty scary what's happening. But anyway, we're going to wrap it up right now. Thank you so much, Joseph, for coming. I've enjoyed talking to you and just listening to you. And do you have any final words you want to say, and how people can contact you or what have you?
Well, absolutely. I'll try to make this real quick. First of all, thank you so much, Dolores, for having me. I mean it. Thank you. I've enjoyed our conversations very much. And now being able to have a conversation that other people can witness, it's a blessing. Thank you very much for this. Second, it's my personal belief that the deep state, the socialist takeover, is trying to keep Republicans from having a public debate right now. If we don't unite behind one candidate, then we will lose this election, because there is another Democrat who's on the ticket. Democrats can just vote no on question number 1, and they can vote for the Democrat on number 2, and they will win this election. So Republicans have to get on stage. They have to debate. They have to show we the people where they actually stand, so that we the people can have some discourse and have an opportunity to unite. If that's not me that everybody unites behind, I'm okay with that. I will be willing to throw my support behind who we the people actually think wins that debate. But we need to prove that we're not deep state tools by getting on a debate stage. So please call your candidate and tell them to debate. My website is josephluciano.com. If you want to support me, please check out my platform there and consider making a contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph. And then I want to thank my audience for coming each week and watching and listening to these podcasts. I thank you. I just ask you to share it, to subscribe, and also come back again next week. We'll have another guest. And my challenge again to you, dear friends, stand up. Stand up for what you believe. Stand up for what's right first. Then stand up for what you believe, because guess what? If we do not stand up for what we believe, who will?